People who live in cities, what are some city things country people don't understand? Walking somewhere close will always be faster than going there by a car. When a city person says it's quiet, he just means there's a constant faint background noise that doesn't change. Like a busy highway 300 yards away, or living next to a railway where a train passes every 10 minutes. If there is a background noise, but it's constant, you get used to it. Noise for a city person is a siren, a car alarm, a loud explosion, that sort of stuff. Whilst for a countryside person, even hearing a highway in the distance would make him go crazy during the first nights when he lives in town. Having a dog will make you socialize a lot. When you're walking it, people with other dogs will stop to let your dogs sniff each other and you'll chit-chat. Little children will want to pet your dog, and old people will tell you that your dog reminds them of their old dogs. Also, the probability that people stop you to ask for directions will significantly increase, I guess because they assume you live in the neighborhood. Being polite and talking to everyone who talks to you will get you finessed. Eye contact is an invitation to talk. Smiling is an invitation to talk. People in the city aren't rude for avoiding these, they're just tired of every conversation they have with a stranger ending in them getting asked for something. It's not that we aren't friendly, there are just so many people we can't say hello and chat with everyone or we never get to our destinations. I love going to small towns and just dialing my brain back 20 malaf and enjoying the people. Small talk, hitting yard sales, visiting small restaurants where the staff engage you. That downtown smell that smells like piss. It's piss. I've lived in big cities and grew up in small country towns. I prefer big cities. One big thing I love about big cities is that not everyone knows your business. You can be yourself without being prejudged for your family or what some ancestor did in the past. The anonymity can be freeing. You don't really have to plan trips to get stuff. Like if we needed some milk, we wouldn't have to take inventory of our entire fridge just to see if we can get enough needs to justify a trip to the store. Most of the time we can just walk to our local shops, buy what we need, and walk back. Edit. Interesting. This comment blew up. For those of you wondering how I know this sacred knowledge, it was because I used to be a country boy. Now, as much as I loved the absolute silence of a freshly harvested field or the jaw-dropping splendor of looking up at our galaxy at night, I still think having quick access to my milk is a noteworthy trade-off. Still do miss it though. It is faster for me to ride my bike to work than it is to drive, and I feel healthier both physically and mentally. Stay to the right when walking and on escalators. Don't stand in the middle of the sidewalk and block people's paths. Let people off the bus, train, elevator before you go in. Most immigrants are just living their lives, working hard, and minding their own business. Taco trucks on every corner is pretty much why we moved to the city in the first place. Bigger cities we give distances in time. That is 30 minutes away or I'm 45 minutes out. Actual distance doesn't work because time of day changes it. I notice that when I visit family in rural area they give it an actual physical distance. Going carless. I moved from a small town to a fairly major US city a year ago. People from back home are completely baffled when I tell them I didn't bring my car here and I don't really want to. Most essential things are within walking distance, public transportation works just fine 90% of the time, and Uber's always an option for the 10% it doesn't. Sure, it's inconvenient at times, but I'm saving hundreds of dollars a month. Well worth it. One of many reasons why I infinitely prefer the city. Deciding you need a new potato peeler, some daffodil bulbs, a pizza and a can of housepaint at 3:48 a.m., and being able to get them. Homeless people everywhere. We tend to be more liberal because we meet more people and we are exposed to more experiences, and because of it we gain awareness and empathy for others. Sometimes it's best to just mind your own business and leave others alone. If there's a few million people around, some of them will be LGBT, or a different religion, or different political affiliation, and you have to just shrug it off most of the time or you'll never find peace. A lot of city people are in favor of gun control because in urban areas, they're not for hunting or self-defense, they're what drug dealers and gangs use to kill each other. I disagree with most gun control, but that's why they feel that way. The police don't live in the communities they control, they're unaccountable, and you certainly don't know them personally. People see them as thugs because there's no recourse if they decide to act like thugs. Unless you are rich, you probably can't afford to give a coin to every beggar, charity stand or person. Even on a small walk you'll meet lots of them, and sometimes it's best to just look at your feet, walk past and not acknowledge them, or they will physically stop you until you give them money. Also, know where your belongings are at any given second, regardless if you are on the street, in a bar, pub or at the disco. I just moved from a small town on the west coast to a medium-sized city on the east coast. It's crazy that you can just go out and do things. You don't have to drive for 2 hours to go to the mall, you just go. I can have food delivered to my house in minutes, and Amazon does next day delivery. It's awesome. Also, cable internet is pretty sweet after having satellite for so long. One question though, what's with all of the hibachi restaurants? It is 2 a.m. Was that a gunshot or fireworks? Edit. Obviously it can be both lol. I moved to LA from a pretty small town in Wisconsin 5 years ago, and there were a lot less times I had to ask this question though. The anonymity. Being an introvert, I simply love the fact that no one cares about me whenever I go out. Just can't do that whenever I visit my hometown. The equal ignoring people of all skin colors, religious beliefs, and sexual orientations. Drunk guy walking past me in the city, you're a long way from home bro. Me wondering if I look like a hick. Yeah. What makes you say that? Drunk guy, because you look me in the eyes like I'm a person. This stuck with me and made me thankful to live out in the country. It made me a little sad for all the anonymous, forgotten people. Generally, when someone you don't know starts up a conversation with you on the street, they want money. That social security programs are important. In small population areas there are maybe a few people that need the help, so it's easy to blame the person for their situation. But in large population areas the same percent, or often lower percent, of people need help, but it now adds up to far more people and becomes a lot harder to ignore. Parallel parking is a normal event. There's a reason the subway car is empty. Cities are surprisingly safe. It's kind of ridiculous how many people still assume New York is this dangerous, crime-ridden place. Even cities notorious for crime like Baltimore or Chicago mostly have their crime in a few bad neighborhoods. The diversity is really wonderful in cities. Being able to get any type of food is really cool, and you get to interact with people from around the world. Plus, if you're a minority you probably won't stick out or be the token minority in the neighborhood. There's plenty of community in big cities, it's just a bit more diffused, harder to see. I might not know my neighbor, but I bump into people I know in the street all the time. Driving 10 miles can sometimes take 60 minutes, depending on how bad the traffic is. That's why if you suggest to go to a restaurant 2 towns over, someone might say it's too far of a drive. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy to walk down the street not acknowledging anyone else. There's a certain kind of comfort to not caring about anyone else's business and no one caring about yours. The police don't give a shit about you and see you as the enemy. I've lived in smaller towns where police are friendly and helpful, and it's not the same. Being late due to lots of traffic. Loud people at night, if you live near a pub like I do. More worry because of the higher chance of COVID-19. It's a lot easier to find services right at your doorstep. We aren't as sociable or community-based unless established communities exist, such as ethnic or cultural. People aren't rude, it's just that if you try to be open to everything and everyone, you get utterly overwhelmed. Yes, I can see that homeless guy could really benefit from 5 minutes and a sandwich, but what about the next guy 3 minutes down the road, or the squaggle of Syrian refugees on the corner? In fact, are those actually Syrian refugees, or just a bunch of bratty second-gen Turkish youths who I don't even want to give the time of day, just because? Disclaimer: I may actually just be a massive prick. Being able to walk to the bank, the grocery store and a Target. Not really needing a car, but having one anyway. Speaking as someone who grew up in the country and moved to the city, what decent food tastes like. We're always in a rush because it's always crowded everywhere. The more crowded it is, the longer it takes to get from A to B, because crowds mean people walking slowly. And the slower everyone else is, this just makes us want to get there faster. We're not actively trying to push past people out of malice, it's just the only way to get through the frustratingly slow tourists. We're on the clock, but the tourists aren't. Going to the grocery store each day for dinner is okay, because it's across the street. No, I literally cannot smell the difference between air in my city and the air in your farm. I can go from anywhere in Ontario to my family in rural Saskatchewan and that's what they always say to me, the air is so fresh, isn't it? Don't get air like this out there. You mean air that smells like a tractor is leaking fuel and cow shitting every 10 seconds? Yeah, you can drive 5 minutes out of town and get that. If you've gotta stop suddenly, stand for some reason, take a photo, look at a map, have a conversation, etc., all totally reasonable. I don't begrudge you that, but do not stand in the middle of the pavement. I've timed my hour commute to a minute or two, maximize time in bed. Commuting on public transport is stressful enough without having to navigate around a bunch of people in the way of everyone else who is trying to get somewhere. I grew up in the country, so totally understand the wanting to stop to look at things. I still catch myself finding something I want to look at in architecture or the sky or something, but life is quick in the city, step to the side or admire at a decent pace. I have lived in both. What I enjoy most about the city, a large city, is everything is with reach. Whatever I want, from sushi to pro sports and everything in between. I used to live on a small farm. I miss being able to pee anywhere I wanted when I was far from the house. But I like having a gas station across the street now in town. At least where I am, parking in one motherfucking spot instead of parking on two while the back of their car is sticking out like a big FU. How to cross a fucking street. Step 1, look both ways. Step 2, continue to check in the direction of traffic. Step 3, if a car is coming, don't make 2 quick steps, wave your hand once apologetically without making eye contact, and then continue at your stupid slow pace. Land doesn't vote, people do. Thinking about all the people during the presidential election last month who were like, but how can Biden win if the map is so red? You have to lock your car and apartment home. Also can't keep valuables out in your car either. Yes, we know where meat comes from. No, we don't think it just comes from a supermarket. We are not rude. We just can't say hello to every person we meet, otherwise we'd never get to where we need to go. The lifestyle may be too busy for you, country life is too inconvenient for me. No way is better than the other, it depends on the person. It's okay to prefer one over the other. When I lived in the city, there was an understanding that you shouldn't park in front of others' houses. There was enough space for 2 cars. Some people never parked in front of their house, so you could also park there in a pinch. ITT, people who think, country people, means uneducated mud people who hardly understand running water and electricity.